The transport ship descended through the artificial atmosphere of Station Theta 7, carrying the batch of cadets to the Galactic Military Academy. Inside the passenger bay, pressed his face against the window, watching the massive station grow larger with each passing second. The structure was enormous, easily the size of a small moon, with docking bays that could swallow Earth's largest cities whole. Around him, the other cadets talked excitedly in languages he couldn't understand. Most of them towered over his seat. They were the biggest, with their thick skin that looked like natural armor. They stood at least 9 feet tall, maybe more. Their voices rumbled like thunder when they spoke. They weren't as tall, but they had 4 arms each and moved with an unsettling grace. Their skin shimmered with colors that changed based on their mood. Was human. He stood at 5 feet 9 inches tall, which was average for his species. But here, surrounded by aliens bred for war and survival on harsh worlds, he felt very small. His uniform fit him perfectly, but it looked almost like a child's costume compared to the massive suits worn by the others. The ship docked with a heavy clang. The door opened, and the cadets filed out into the station, grabbed his bag and joined the stream of beings heading toward the academy entrance. The hallway was huge, built to accommodate the largest species in the galaxy. He felt like an ant walking through a cathedral. "Hey, you're human, right?" a voice called out in perfect English. Turned and saw a young woman pushing through the crowd toward him. She was short, maybe 5 feet 5 inches, with her dark hair pulled back in a tight bun. She wore the same uniform he did. "Yeah," he said, "I'm." She replied, falling into step beside him. "I came from the Mars colony. You're from Earth." "Sol," he confirmed. "I didn't know there would be other humans here." "There aren't many of us," said, glancing at the aliens around them. "Maybe 5 or 6 in this whole class. Humans don't usually last long at this academy." Frowned. "What do you mean?" "I mean we're small," said bluntly. "We're weak compared to most species here. We have no natural armor, no claws, no venom. Most human cadets wash out in the first few months. They can't keep up with the physical demands." Before could respond, a booming voice echoed through the hallway. "All cadets report to orientation hall immediately. Move quickly." The crowd surged forward, and were swept along with the others, struggling not to get trampled by the much larger beings around them. They finally reached the orientation hall, a massive amphitheater that could hold thousands. The cadets found seats and noticed that the chairs weren't built for humans. His feet barely touched the ground. An instructor walked onto the stage. She was one of the crystalline species from the outer rim. Her body reflected light in beautiful patterns, but her voice was sharp and cold. "Welcome to the Galactic Military Academy," she said. "You have been selected from billions of applicants across 47 worlds. You are here because you showed promise, but promise means nothing without results. Over the next 2 years, you will be tested in ways you cannot imagine. Most of you will fail. Some of you will die." A nervous murmur ran through the hall. The instructor continued without pause. "You will be assigned to squads. Your squad is your family, your unit, your survival. If your squad fails, you fail. If your squad succeeds, you succeed. There are no individuals here, only squads." The lights dimmed and names began appearing on a massive screen. Watched as cadets were sorted into different squads. Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta. The names kept coming. Finally, he saw his own name appear. "Squad Omega, human has." Leaned over to him. "Omega," she whispered. "That's not good. They put all the weak species in Omega. It's basically the reject squad." Said nothing. He watched as the other members of Squad Omega were called forward. Has was massive even by standards, standing nearly 11 feet tall. His armor-like skin was from what looked like hundreds of battles, and were twin, their 4 arms moving in perfect sync. Was younger than Has but still twice size. When all the squad assignments were complete, the cadets were directed to meet their teammates, and walked over to where the other members of Squad Omega waited. Has looked down at them with what might have been disgust. Humans, he rumbled. His voice was so deep that felt it in his chest. They put humans in my squad. We didn't ask to be here either, shot back. Has leaned down until his face was level with hers. Your species has no natural defenses. You are soft, fragile. On my world you would be prey animals. You break easily and die easier. Stepped forward, positioning himself slightly in front of. Then, I guess we'll have to be smart instead of strong. Has stared at him for a long moment. Then he laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. Smart. Intelligence means nothing when a warrior is crushing your skull. But fine. You are in my squad, so I will keep you alive as long as I can. Try not to slow us down. The end said nothing. They simply watched the humans with their color-shifting eyes, their expressions unreadable, grunted something in that made Has laugh again. Says you look like children, Has translated. He wonders if humans are even adults at your size, or if they sent bobbies to the academy by mistake. Tell that humans are fully grown at 18 years old, said evenly, and I'm 22. 22 years and still so small, Has shook his head. Your species is cursed. An instructor approached their group. He was older than Has, with white scars covering his arms and chest. Squad Omega, he said, I am Instructor N. I will be overseeing your training. I see we have humans this year. He looked at N. I have trained humans before. None of them graduated. The academy is not built for your species. You lack the physical capabilities to compete. With respect, Instructor said, we're here to learn, not to quit. N's eyes narrowed. Confidence is good. Overconfidence will get you killed. We will see how long your determination lasts. He turned to address the whole squad. Your first evaluation begins in 72 hours. It is called the Survival Gauntlet. You will enter a hostile environment dome and complete a series of objectives while facing various threats. Squads that fail to work together will be eliminated. Squads that succeed will advance to the next phase of training. What kind of threats? Asked. Environmental hazards, automated defenses, other squads, and smiled, showing sharp teeth. The gauntlet is designed to break weak teams. It will reveal which of you truly belong here and which of you are wasting everyone's time. He walked away, leaving Squad Omega standing together in uncomfortable silence. Has looked at the humans again. 3 days, he said. Try to prepare yourselves. When we enter that dome, I will lead. You will follow. If you cannot keep up, I will leave you behind. Understood? Understood, said. Has nodded and gestured for the other aliens to follow him. They left without another word, and stood alone in the emptying hall. Well, said, that went about as well as expected. They think we're useless, observed. We are useless, by their standards, shouldered her bag. Come on, let's find our quarters and figure out how to survive the next 3 days. As they walked through the station's corridors, dodging much larger beings, couldn't help but notice the looks they received. Some aliens seemed curious. Others looked amused. A few appeared outright contemptuous. Nobody looked afraid. That was going to change. The 72 hours passed quickly, and spent most of their time studying maps of previous gauntlet courses and reviewing combat protocols. The Academy's database had limited information about human tactics, but plenty about every other species. They learned weaknesses, physical limitations, and typical strategies. If they couldn't match the aliens in strength, they would have to outsmart them. On the morning of the gauntlet, Squad Omega assembled at the entrance to Dome 7. The structure loomed above them, a massive sealed environment that could simulate any planetary condition. Through the transparent sections of the dome, could see rocky terrain, dense vegetation, and what looked like ruins of ancient buildings. Has checked his equipment one final time. They didn't need much gear. Their natural armor was better than most manufactured suits. He carried a plasma rifle designed for his species, along with a blade as long as his entire arm. Listen carefully, Hez said to the squad. We move as one unit. I take point. Watch as our rear and scout ahead with their speed. Humans stay in the middle where you are protected. We can fight, said. Hez glanced at him. You can try to fight. That is different from actually fighting. Your weapons are too small for your hands. Your armor is thin. If combat begins, stay down and let the real warriors handle it. Looked like she wanted to argue but touched her arm and shook his head. There was no point in arguing now. They would prove themselves through actions, not words. The entrance to the dome opened with a hiss of equalizing pressure. The 6 members of Squad Omega entered together. The moment they crossed the threshold, the door sealed behind them. A voice echoed through hidden speakers. Survival Gauntlet initiated. Objective 1, reach the northern checkpoint within 6 hours. Objective 2, retrieve the data core from the ruins. Objective 3, return to the extraction zone before time expires. Total mission time, 72 hours. Elimination conditions, squad member death, squad member capture, or failure to complete objectives. Begin. Has immediately started moving north. The terrain was rough, covered in loose rocks and thorny plants. The 2, and ahead on their 4 arms, moving like spiders across the difficult ground, trudged behind, his heavy footsteps crushing plants beneath his weight, and struggled to keep pace, their smaller legs working twice as hard to cover the same distance. The first day went smoothly. They reached the northern checkpoint without incident, finding a sealed container with supplies and their next objective coordinates. The ruins were 20 kilometers to the east, through a canyon system. Has decided they would rest for 4 hours before continuing. During the rest period, noticed something. They fell asleep almost immediately, their bodies shutting down completely. They took turns on watch, but their attention seemed focused on distant threats rather than close ones. None of them seemed concerned about the humans. They're not taking this seriously, whispered to him. They think they've already won, agreed quietly. Most squads probably do well in the gauntlet. It's designed to be challenging, not impossible. So what happens when something actually goes wrong? Didn't have an answer. On the second day, they found out. Squad Omega entered the canyon system as the artificial sun climbed toward noon. The canyon walls rose hundreds of feet on either side, creating natural. It was the perfect place for an ambush. And Squad Theta was waiting for them. The first plasma bolt caught in the chest. He roared in pain and collapsed, his nervous system temporarily paralyzed by the stun setting. More shots rained down from the canyon walls. Took cover behind a boulder, returning fire with his rifle. Tried to scale the canyon wall but was hit twice and fell back down. Defensive positions, Has shouted, diving behind cover, but he was a second too slow. A plasma net expanded in midair and wrapped around him, delivering a powerful shock that knocked him unconscious. Suddenly, Squad Omega had lost their leader and their heavy fighter, and were pinned down with enemies on both sides of the canyon. Through the smoke and chaos, counted at least 9 attackers from Squad Theta. We need to surrender, said, his voice tight with panic. We cannot win this fight. They have the high ground and superior numbers, added. Standard protocol is to accept elimination and preserve resources. No, said. Turned to stare at him. What did you say? I said no, we're not surrendering. Checked his rifle's charge, still at 90%, he looked at. You remember basic training, the mountain course. His eyes widened. That's insane. It worked then, it'll work now. He turned to the cover us for 30 seconds, then follow if you want to live. Follow you where? Demanded. We are trapped. Just trust me. Didn't wait for a response. He burst from cover and ran directly toward the enemy position. Every instinct in the mines told them this was suicide. Running toward a fortified position with superior numbers was exactly what you didn't do in combat. But something in the human's voice made raise his rifle and start firing at the canyon walls. sprinted across open ground. Plasma bolts scorched the air around him. One grazed his shoulder, burning through his uniform and searing his skin. He barely noticed. His heart pounded in his chest, pumping adrenaline through his system. The pain was distant, unimportant. His vision narrowed to a tunnel focused on his target. Behind him, ran with her rifle raised, firing as she moved. She was smaller than, harder to hit, and her earth-trained reflexes let her dodge incoming fire by fractions of inches. Squad Theta hadn't expected this. Their leader, a massive named, watched in confusion as two tiny humans charged his fortified position. He raised his rifle to fire but was already too close. The human leaped, using a boulder as a stepping stone, and slammed into with his full body weight. It wasn't enough force to knock down but it was enough to disrupt his aim. Hands found his throat, pressing on vulnerable points he'd memorized from the Academy's anatomical database, grabbed him with one massive hand and threw him against the canyon wall. Hit hard enough that stars exploded across his vision. His ribs screamed in protest. A normal human might have stayed down, but humans didn't evolve to give up after the first hit. They evolved to get back up, again and again and again. He rolled to his feet and attacked again. Reached the position and started firing at point-blank range. Squad Theta scattered, their formation breaking. They weren't trained for close combat. Most species in the galaxy relied on range and natural advantages. Hand-to-hand fighting was messy, unpredictable, and brutal. Humans had been doing it for millions of years. Grabbed by two of its arms and used its own momentum to throw it off balance. He struck pressure points, joints, anywhere that would cause pain and disruption. He took more hits, each one adding to his collection of bruises and burns, but he didn't stop. And watched from their position in shock. The humans were winning, not through superior strength or weapons, but through sheer, insane aggression. They fought like cornered animals that had forgotten how to feel fear. A plasma bolt finally caught Square in the back. He went down hard, his body spasming from the stun charge. But by then, it was too late for Squad Theta. Had eliminated 3 more of their members, and inspired by the humans' recklessness, charged from their cover and joined the fight. 5 minutes later, Squad Theta was eliminated. Squad Omega stood victorious in the canyon, battered and exhausted but alive. Knelt beside, checking his pulse. Still breathing, the stun will wear off in a few minutes. Approached slowly, his 4 arms hanging at his sides. "What you did," he said quietly, "that was not logical, that was not trained tactics, you should have died." "Probably," agreed, "but we didn't, that's what matters." "What are you?" asked. "What kind of species runs toward death like that?" Looked up at them and smiled without humor. "The kind that evolved on Earth, where everything is trying to kill you, and the only way to survive is to be more stubborn than everything else." When Has and recovered from their stun charges, they found their squad victorious and the canyon secured. Has stared at, who was sitting against a rock with burn marks on his uniform and blood running from a cut above his eye. "You saved the squad," Has said slowly. "We did what we had to do," replied. Has was quiet for a long time, then he nodded once. "Perhaps I was wrong about humans." News of Squad Omega's victory spread through the Academy faster than expected. By the time they returned from the gauntlet 3 days later, other cadets were talking about the humans who had charged an ambush and won. The story grew with each retelling, becoming more dramatic and less accurate. In the recovery bay, a medical officer examined injuries. She was her crystalline body reflecting the harsh lights of the medical facility. 2 cracked ribs, she said, running a scanner over his chest. Severe bruising across your back and shoulders. 1st-degree plasma burns on your left arm. Multiple contusions. For most species, these injuries would require a week of rest and regeneration therapy. "How long for humans?" asked. 3 days of rest, then light duty. Your species heals remarkably fast for something so fragile. The medical officer made notes on her tablet. I reviewed the combat footage from the gauntlet. You took 4 direct hits that should have incapacitated you, yet you continued fighting. How is this possible? Shrugged, then winced as the movement pulled at his bruised muscles. Pain is just information. It tells you something is wrong, but it doesn't mean you have to stop. The medical officer tilted her head, confused. That is not logical. Pain exists to prevent further damage. Ignoring it leads to permanent injury. Sometimes survival matters more than avoiding injury, said. In the bed next to him laughed. She had gotten off easier with only minor burns and a sprained wrist. You're trying to explain human psychology to an alien. Good luck with that. The medical officer left them, still confused. When she was gone, another figure approached their beds. It was Cadet, one of the other humans at the academy. He was older than both of them in his final year of training. I heard what you did in the gauntlet, said, pulling up a chair. People are talking. The instructors are reviewing your tactics. Is that good or bad? Asked. Depends on how you look at it. Good because you got noticed. Bad because now everyone will expect you to pull off miracles in every exercise. Leaned forward. I need to ask you something. When you charged that position, what were you thinking? Considered the question. I wasn't thinking. I was reacting. We were pinned down and our squad leader was unconscious. Standard tactics said surrender, but surrendering meant losing, and I don't accept losing without a fight. Even when the odds are impossible. Especially when the odds are impossible. That's when you fight hardest. Smiled. You know what you remind me of? A honey badger. A what? Asked. Honey badger, small animal from Earth. About 2 feet long, weighs maybe 30 pounds, looks harmless. Pulled up an image on his tablet showing a stocky creature with black and white fur. But these things are insane. They raid beehives and get stung thousands of times. They hunt venomous snakes. They fight lions and leopards. There are videos of honey badgers taking bites from cobras, getting paralyzed by the venom, lying there unconscious for hours, then waking up and eating the snake. Stared at the image. That's a real animal. Real as you and me. They evolved on Earth alongside humans. Same planet, same rules. And the main rule on Earth is this: size doesn't matter if you're too stubborn to quit. Put away his tablet. Most species in the galaxy evolved on worlds that made sense. Predictable weather, stable environments, clear rules about predator and prey. Earth wasn't like that. Earth was chaos. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, megapredators everywhere. Humans survived by being persistent hunters. We chased animals until they collapsed from exhaustion. We didn't give up, ever. The honey badger is the same, continued. It doesn't have armor like it doesn't have venom like it's small and shouldn't stand a chance against bigger predators. But it has one advantage: it doesn't know how to quit, and that makes it one of the most dangerous animals on Earth. Looked thoughtful. So you're saying humans are like honey badgers? I'm saying humans are honey badgers, just bigger and smarter. We evolved on the same planet that produced them. We learned the same lesson they did. Stood up. The aliens here think they're superior because they're bigger, stronger, have natural weapons. But they've never faced an enemy that simply refuses to die. That's humanity's real advantage. After left and spent the rest of their recovery time researching honey badgers. The more they learned, the more the comparison made sense. Videos showed the small animals attacking everything from lions to buffalo, never backing down, never showing fear. They broke into human settlements to steal food. They escaped from zoos by using tools. They were smart, aggressive, and absolutely fearless. We need to show this to Haz, said. 3 days later, Squad Omega assembled for their next training session. Haz had changed his attitude toward the humans, but he still didn't fully understand them. When showed him the honey badger videos, the big watched in silence. This creature weighs less than your weapon, Haz said slowly, yet it attacks animals 50 times its size. And usually wins, confirmed. This is madness. This is Earth, corrected. Everything there is like this. Humans, honey badgers, and dozens of other species. We all learned to fight above our weight class because we had no choice. Has watched another video, this one showing a honey badger breaking into a beehive, getting stung repeatedly, and continuing to eat honey while bees swarmed its face. Your planet is a nightmare world, he said finally. Our planet made us what we are, said. Humans hunted mammoths to extinction, giant animals with tons of muscle and tusks as long as I am tall. We killed them all with stone tools and persistence. We climbed to the top of Earth's food chain without claws, fangs, armor, or venom. We did it by being too stubborn to die. And had joined them to watch the videos. The twin exchanged looks, their skin shifting through uncertain colors. In the gauntlet, said quietly, you charged at superior forces. We thought you were panicking, but you were not panicking, were you? No, said, I was attacking. Why? Because that's what humans do when we're cornered. We don't curl up and wait to die. We attack. It doesn't matter if we're smaller or weaker. We attack anyway and force the enemy to deal with us. Who had been silent during the conversation spoke in his rumbling dialect. Has translated. He says that on his home world, prey animals run when predators approach, but you do not run. We're not prey, said. We never have been. Humans are predators. We're just smaller than most of the predators here, so everyone assumes we're weak. That's their mistake. Has was quiet for a long moment. Then he made a decision. Show me your fighting techniques, the moves you used in the canyon. I want to understand how humans fight. For the next hour and demonstrated basic human martial arts. They showed strikes, throws, joint locks, and pressure point techniques. The alien cadets watched with growing interest. You use leverage instead of strength, Has observed, and you target weak points rather than trying to overpower through force. Exactly, said. A human can't out-muscle a, but we don't need to. We just need to hit the right spots in the right way. Teach us, Has said suddenly. Blink to what? Teach us to fight like humans, like honey badgers. Has gestured to the rest of the squad. We have strength and natural advantages, but we rely too much on them. If we learn human tactics, we become more dangerous. You want to learn from us, sounded shocked. I want to win, Has said simply. The arena tournament begins in 6 weeks. Every squad will compete. I want Squad Omega to dominate. To do that, we need every advantage we can find. And you two just proved that human aggression is an advantage. Nodded, I agree. We should train together, combine our strengths. But the other cadets, said hesitantly, they will mock us for learning from humans. Let them mock, Has said. They will stop mocking after we defeat them in the arena. Looked at, she grinned and nodded. All right, said, but you need to understand something first. Human fighting techniques aren't gentle. We're going to get hurt during training. We're going to bruise, bleed, and feel pain. That's part of learning. Can you handle that? Has showed his teeth in what might have been a smile. Humans are not the only species that can endure pain, little honey badger. Teach us your ways. We will prove worthy students. As Squad Omega began their training, word continued to spread through the academy. The humans were no longer dismissed as weak. They were becoming something else, something dangerous. And the arena would prove just how dangerous they could be. The arena was the oldest tradition at the Galactic Military Academy. Every year, cadets competed in single combat to prove their skills and earn ranking points. The matches were not to the death, but they were brutal. Weapons were set to stun, but pain was very real. Injuries were common. Some cadets never fully recovered. The arena itself was a massive circular structure in the heart of Station Theta 7. It could hold 50,000 spectators, and every seat was filled on tournament day. Cadets from all years attended, along with instructors, military officers, and even some civilian observers. The matches were broadcast across the entire galaxy, showcasing the best warriors from each species. stood in the preparation area beneath the arena, checking his equipment one final time. His uniform was reinforced at the joints and chest, but it was still lighter than what most species wore. His weapon was a standard plasma rifle with a stun setting. He also carried a combat knife, more out of habit than necessity. Appeared beside him, her own gear secured. She wasn't fighting today, but she had volunteered as his second, providing support and advice between rounds. "You drew okay in the first round," she said quietly. "Did you know that?" Had known. The matchups had been announced 3 days ago, and the betting pools had opened immediately. Okay was the largest cadet in the entire academy. He stood 11 feet tall and weighed somewhere around 800 pounds of pure muscle and natural armor. He had won the arena tournament for the past 2 years. Nobody expected him to lose, especially not to a human. "The odds are 500 to 1 against you," continued. "I put money on you anyway. We're going to be rich or broke." Smiled slightly. "Thanks for the confidence." "I've seen you fight. I know what you can do," adjusted his armor strap. "But OK is different. He's not some random opponent. He's been trained since childhood for combat. His species lives for battle. You can't just charge him like you did in the gauntlet." "I know," said. "I've been studying his previous matches. He's strong and durable, but he relies on overwhelming force. He ends fights quickly with powerful strikes." "Can you survive his strikes?" "I'll have to." Before could respond, a voice echoed through the preparation area. "Cadet, report to Arena Floor 3. Your match begins in 5 minutes." Took a deep breath and headed for the entrance tunnel. Behind him, he heard call out, "Remember, you're a honey badger. Honey badgers don't care about the odds." The tunnel led upward, ending at a massive door. When it opened, the roar of the crowd hit him like a physical force. Walked out into the arena, and 50,000 beings watched him cross the floor. The noise was incredible, a mix of cheers, jeers, and alien languages he couldn't identify. Across the arena, another door opened. OK emerged and the crowd's volume doubled. The massive raised his arms in victory, celebrating before the fight even began. His natural armor gleamed under the bright lights. His weapon, a plasma hammer twice the size of his rifle, crackled with energy. The referee, a neutral instructor from the academy, stood at the center of the arena. He waited until both fighters approached. "Standard arena rules," the referee said, his voice amplified throughout the space. "Weapons set to stun only. Match ends when one fighter is unconscious, surrenders, or leaves the arena boundary. Medical teams are standing by. Do both fighters understand?" "Yes," OK rumbled. "Yes," confirmed. "Then take your positions." They walked to opposite sides of the circular arena floor. Used the time to control his breathing, letting his heart rate slow despite the adrenaline starting to pump through his system. He had learned meditation techniques during his training on Earth, ways to stay calm under pressure. He needed every advantage he could get. The referee raised his hand, "Fighters ready." Settled into a combat stance, his weight balanced, his eyes locked on OK. "Begin." OK charged immediately, closing the distance with surprising speed for something so large. His hammer swung in a wide arc that would have pulverized if it connected, but wasn't there. He had already moved, stepping inside the arc of the swing, too close for the hammer to reach him effectively. He struck at OK's knee joint, targeting the small gap in the natural armor. His knife scored a shallow cut, not enough to injure seriously, but enough to send pain signals. OK roared and backhanded him with his free hand. The impact launched across the arena floor. He rolled and came up running, ignoring the sharp pain in his ribs. The crowd gasped. Most fighters would have been unconscious from that single hit. "You are fast, little human," OK said, "but you cannot run forever." Didn't respond. He was already analyzing, calculating. OK was fast for his size, but he was still limited by his weight and bulk. He fought in straight lines, using power over precision. And most importantly, he wasn't used to opponents who could take hits and keep fighting. The match continued. OK swung his hammer again and again, each strike powerful enough to end the fight. Dodged, ducked, and rolled away from the attacks. When he couldn't avoid a hit entirely, he positioned himself to take glancing blows instead of direct impacts. Each one hurt. Each one added to his growing collection of bruises. But he stayed on his feet. 5 minutes into the fight, something changed. Ok's breathing became heavier. His swings were slightly slower. The species evolved for overwhelming force in short bursts, not extended combat. They were built for single decisive battles. Humans evolved differently. Humans chased their prey for hours, sometimes days, until the target collapsed from exhaustion. Humans were built for endurance. Increased his pace, forcing OK to move more, to work harder. He struck and retreated, never staying in one place long enough for the heavy hammer to catch him. Each of his attacks targeted joints, nerve clusters, and other vulnerable points. None of them were devastating individually, but they accumulated. 10 minutes, 15, 20. The crowd had gone quiet, confused. This wasn't how arena matches usually went. Normally, OK ended fights in under 5 minutes, but the tiny human refused to fall down. OK's frustration grew. "Stand still and fight," he bellowed. "I am fighting," replied, breathing hard but still moving. "Just not the way you want me to." Another swing, another dodge, but this time saw it. OK's left arm dropped slightly after the swing, creating a gap in his defense. It was a tiny opening, lasting maybe half a second, but half a second was enough. Feinted right, then exploded left. His combat knife found the nerve cluster in OK's armpit, one of the few truly vulnerable spots on a. He drove the blade deep, sending maximum pain signals directly into OK's nervous system. The massive alien roared and dropped his hammer. His left arm went limp, but he still had his right arm, and he used it to grab by the throat, lifting him off the ground. "I will crush you," OK snarled. Couldn't breathe. His vision started to darken at the edges, but his hands were still free. He drew his plasma rifle, pressed it against OK's throat, and fired. The stun bolt at point-blank range was devastating. OK's eyes rolled back and he collapsed like a falling mountain, fell with him, landing hard on the arena floor. For a moment, neither fighter moved. The crowd held its breath. Then stirred. Slowly, painfully, he pushed himself to his hands and knees. His throat burned where OK had grabbed him. His entire body felt like one giant bruise, but he was conscious. OK remained down. The referee rushed forward, checking both fighters. He held his hand over OK's face, confirming the was unconscious. Then he turned to who had managed to stand up despite shaking legs. "Winner," the referee shouted, raising his arm. "Cadet." The arena exploded with noise. Half the crowd was cheering in disbelief. The other half was shouting protests. The betting pools had just lost massive amounts of money. In the preparation area, jumped and screamed. Haz, watching from the squad seating section, stood with his arms crossed, a satisfied expression on his face. Barely heard any of it. He focused on walking out of the arena under his own power, refusing medical assistance until he reached the preparation area. Only then did he let himself collapse onto a bench. Was there immediately, checking his injuries. "You insane honey badger," she said, but she was smiling. "You actually did it." "I told you," managed to say through the pain. "Honey badgers don't quit." In the arena above, medical teams loaded OK onto a stretcher. He would recover in a few hours, but his pride would take longer to heal. He had lost to a creature 1/10 his size. And everyone in the galaxy had watched it happen. The medical bay was crowded when woke up. He had been unconscious for 6 hours after the match, his body finally shutting down once the adrenaline wore off. Now he lay in a recovery bed, his ribs wrapped in regeneration bandages, his throat bruised but functional. Sat in a chair beside his bed. When she saw him open his eyes, she grinned. "Welcome back, hero. You've become famous." "Famous?" His voice came out as a rough whisper. "The match has been broadcast across 47 worlds. Everyone is talking about it. The human who defeated the Academy champion pulled up her tablet and showed him the news feeds. Headlines in dozens of languages, all telling the same story. You've got interview requests from 17 different networks. The betting houses are filing complaints, and the instructors want to study your fighting techniques." Tried to sit up, winced, and settled back down. "How's okay?" "He woke up 3 hours ago. He's fine physically, but his ego took a beating." Paused. "He asked to see you when you woke up." "Really?" "Really. The medical officer said he can visit in a few minutes if you're up for it." Before could respond, the door opened. But it wasn't okay. It was Instructor N, the old who oversaw Squad Omega. He approached the bed slowly, studying with eyes that had seen thousands of battles. "Cadet," N said, "I came to tell you that I was wrong about humans." "Sorry." "I told you that your species lacked the physical capabilities to compete. I said none of the humans I trained had graduated. I believed you would fail like the others." N's expression was difficult to read. "I was wrong. I judged your species by our standards, measuring strength against strength, armor against armor. I did not consider that you might have different advantages." "We have to find our own way to win," said quietly. "Yes, and you have shown us that way," and pulled up his tablet. "I reviewed your match footage 17 times. I analyzed every movement, every decision. Do you know what I discovered?" Shook his head. "You took 14 direct hits from OK. Any one of those strikes would have disabled a, 3 would incapacitate a, 7 would kill most species outright. Yet you continued fighting, not because you are strong, but because your species simply endures." "Pain is temporary," said. "Losing is permanent." "That philosophy should not work," and said. "It defies logic to continue fighting when your body is damaged, yet humans do it anyway. I have added a new section to the Academy Combat Manual about human engagement protocols. Would you like to hear it?" Nodded, and read from his tablet. "When engaging human opponents, do not rely on size advantage or initial superiority. Humans employ aggression persistence and pain tolerance far exceeding normal parameters. Victory must be absolute and immediate. Wounded or disadvantaged humans become more dangerous, not less. Classification: persistence predator. Approach with caution." Laughed. "We're officially dangerous now." "You always were," and said. "We simply failed to recognize it." He turned to leave, then paused. "One more thing. The Academy Board has voted to increase human enrollment in next year's class. We believe your species has much to teach us about combat philosophy. You should be proud." After N left, OK arrived. The Massive had to duck to enter the medical bay. He stood at the foot of his bed, silent for a long moment. "You fought well," OK said finally. "So did you." "No, I fought as I always fight, with power and confidence. You fought differently. You made me work for 23 minutes. No one has ever done that before." OK's voice held something that might have been respect. "I underestimated you because of your size. That was my mistake." "Most people do," said. "They will not make that mistake again, not after yesterday." OK reached out with one massive hand. Confused, extended his own much smaller hand. The shook it carefully, aware that he could crush the human's bones with a careless squeeze. "You have my respect. You earned it through combat, the only way that matters to my people." When OK left, leaned back in her chair. "I don't think I've ever seen him show respect to anyone before. He's a warrior. Warriors understand strength, even when it comes in unexpected forms." Over the next few days, recovered quickly thanks to human regeneration capabilities. His ribs healed. The bruises faded. Within a week, he was back to light training, and everything had changed. Cadets who had mocked him before now nodded respectfully when they passed in the corridors. Squad leaders from other teams asked if he would help train their members in human combat techniques. Even the instructors treated him differently, no longer dismissing him as a liability. Squad Omega had become the most sought-after training partner in the academy, has led their sessions with pride, demonstrating the mixed tactics they had developed combining strength with human aggression and persistence. Other human cadets at the academy experienced the change too. Cadet reported that his squad leader had apologized for past dismissive treatment. Young, a newer human cadet, found herself chosen for an advanced tactics course she had previously been entry to. One afternoon, found himself in the academy archives, researching Earth fauna for a presentation. He pulled up files on honey badgers again, watching the videos of the small creatures fighting lions and surviving snake bites. Found him there, still thinking about honey badgers. Their perfect metaphor for humans, said. Small, lacking natural weapons but too stubborn to quit. We're exactly the same. You know what else I learned about honey badgers? Sat down beside him. They're solitary animals most of the time, but when they need to, they can work together. Kind of like humans. We can survive alone, but we're even more dangerous in groups. Squad Omega proved that. We did, pulled up another file on her own tablet. I've been researching other Earth animals. Did you know about wolverines? They're like honey badgers but bigger. They've been known to drive bears away from kills. And there are videos of cassowaries, these birds that can kill with a single kick. Earth produced dozens of species that punch way above their weight class. That's because Earth is a nightmare world, said, repeating Haz's words. It made everything on it learn to be dangerous. And humans learned better than anyone else, smiled. We hunted mammoths to extinction. We survived ice ages. We created civilization despite having no natural advantages except our brains and our stubbornness. When you think about it that way, beating OK was easy. Our ancestors did harder things with stone tools. That evening, Squad Omega gathered in their common area. Has had ordered food from the academy cafeteria, a mix of dishes from different worlds. They sat together, a strange collection of species that had learned to work as a unit. I have an announcement, Has said, standing up. I have decided that Squad Omega needs official symbol, something to represent what we have become. What kind of symbol? Asked. Has activated a hologram projector. An image appeared in the center of the room. It was a honey badger standing on its hind legs in aggressive posture. Beneath it, text in Galactic Standard. Squad Omega, we don't care about the odds. Started laughing, joined him. Soon the whole squad was making their species equivalent of laughter. It is perfect, rumbled in, Has translated. He says that anyone who sees this symbol will know we are dangerous, small but fierce, like the humans taught us. I like it, said. It sends message, do not judge by appearance. They spent the rest of the evening talking about future training, upcoming evaluations, and their goals for the rest of the year. Squad Omega had gone from being the reject squad to one of the most respected units in the academy. They had proven that different species working together could be stronger than any single species alone. As the gathering broke up and everyone headed to their quarters, walked through the station corridors. You changed everything, she said. Before your match with OK, humans were considered weak. Now we're respected. I just did what any human would do, said. I refused to quit. That's exactly my point. Refusing to quit is the most human thing there is. We're not the strongest or the fastest or the most naturally armed species, but we're the ones who never give up, and that makes us dangerous. They reached the human cadet quarters and paused outside. You know what the best part is, said. Next year more humans will come to the academy, and they won't be dismissed like we were. They'll arrive with expectations, with respect already earned. We made that happen. We did, agreed. We showed the galaxy what humans can do. We're honey badgers, all of us, and honey badgers don't care about impossible odds." "No," said Smiling, "we really don't." Somewhere in the Academy archives, the combat instructors were rewriting their training manuals. The sections on human capabilities were being expanded, updated with new observations and warnings. The humans were small, yes. They were physically weak compared to most species, true, but they possessed something more valuable than size or strength. They possessed the persistence of predators who had evolved on Earth, a world that had taught every species the same brutal lesson: adapt, endure, or die. And humans had not just adapted. They had thrived. They had conquered their planet through sheer stubbornness and refusal to accept limitations. In the unofficial notes section of the new manual, someone had added a final observation. Humans are living proof that size doesn't determine survival. Attitude does. And human attitude can be summarized in 3 words: never stop fighting. Below that, in smaller text, was the nickname that had started to spread through the Academy. The name that every cadet now knew to respect. The Honey Badgers. And honey badgers, as everyone now understood, didn't care about the odds. They just kept fighting until they won.